Good. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Second Chance MTG, where we have Legacy on for you tonight with Pox versus Grixis Delver. A very interesting matchup, to say the least. What do you think, Alex?
Yeah, the matchup is very dynamic. There's different game plans going on here. One of them is trying to win the game as fast as possible with as few resources as possible, and the Pox deck is essentially trying to lock its opponent out of the game by limiting them from having any permanents. So it should be interesting to see which deck is able to prevail.
Yeah, we see. I think Ryan is taking the Pox player is taking a mulligan here, possibly, because Eric actually already has his hand all together. We'll see what is actually going on in each of their hands pretty soon. I think I see what is that in Ryan's hand. It's a little bit difficult to tell from here.
Looks like they're on their way, and the Pox player's on the play. He leads off with a looks like a Mistress Factory.
Yeah.
Alright, Delver player leads off with a, looks like Volcanic, and just passing the turn. Box player hopefully helps to have an Urborg here, which he does. It allows him to play Sinkhole on the Volcanic. And now Eric's going to brainstorm in response, attempting to potentially save his land, or at least find more lands for the future.
Force of Will or something here. Probably what he wants.
Yeah, or just be trying to find more lands. You know, if he can keep a hand that has a couple lands in it, he's fine with his first land getting destroyed. But you see, he's going to let it go. So we're hopefully he found the tools to continue on with the game.
No. Eric seems to have another land, so
that's
he's
good.
Not in the dumps already.
Yeah, his deck is very good operating on very few resources. He can function off of basically 2 lands, though even ones. A lot of the time, his deck is at least able to put up an offense. It'll be interesting to see how the Pox player is able to, if he's able to establish a threat that's able to close out the game, like Liliana the Veil, or some other recursive threat that's able to deal damage over the long run.
I think I saw at least one Liliana the Veil in Ryan's hand, so we'll see.
Well, that's the ideal start. You wanna lead off with some kind of usually with the Pox deck you don't have a lot of turn 1s, or if you do, they usually, or it's hard to use. Like, you want to have Urborg on your man land. That's one of your best things you can do.
Here you go. We have Liliana the Veil from Ryan here, and he's going to probably sack his Delver.
I was really hoping this doesn't get Dazed here, because Dazed is really good in this kind of matchup. He's able to fight over the spells.
He's going to plus Liliana.
Oh, wow. He's not even afraid of this Delver, huh?
Very interesting, actually.
Yeah. Looks like,
he's ditching another Liliana.
Yeah, looks like he doesn't feel like he must be floated on those. Maybe he doesn't feel like he needs them. Though it's a little risky being that Eric brainstormed to assume that this Delver's not going to flip it. It's going to flip, obviously. He's not going to be able to kill Liliana with Delver, but he may be able to finish it off with a Lightning Bolt or something in his hand.
He draws.
I believe it's a Ponder. Alright, so he's probably attacking the Liliana. There's not really a lot of argument to not get that off the table because it's so hard for him to advance his board with it and play.
He Gitaxian probed him.
Yeah, just showing off his hand. Only got the one in hand, or a couple cards in hand there. It's not. See, I guess he's going to leave it on the table for him.
Oh, nice.
Well, guys, it's pretty safe to assume this Delver's going after Liliana the Veil because it's just a card that, again, hinders his development so much that he probably has to get it off the table.
Liliana go down to 1. And that obviously prevents him from making him sack the
Delver.
Delver.
Looks like he's going to lead off with that Ponder he drew. He's really thought about this Ponder.
He's in thought. Deep thought about this Ponder.
I mean, he's pondering. Alright, looks like he likes the configuration. He's just going to keep it the way it is and draw the card. Okay, maybe he found a bolt to finish off the Liliana.
I believe that looks like a Brainstorm.
Okay, he may be using Brainstorm to try to protect his hand from targeted discard in the future. Can you do this? Make it bigger. I'm having a hard time seeing what's in play. Okay. Oh, what's that?
Uh-oh. We've
We got
lost video.
Some technical difficulties over here. Hopefully we should be up in a second.
It looks like we're coming back.
There we go. We're back up. Looks like the Delver, or looks like it's not. Ryan took his turn, or he's during his turn right now. It looks like he went ahead and Eric's brainstorming. Looks like right now, I believe, or. Okay, so yeah, we're in Brian's turn. He's attacking with the Mitchell's Factory. He's start, trying to apply pressure to the Delver player. He doesn't know he doesn't have all day. He plus the Liliana, looks like. Looks like Eric must have brainstormed a response to try to, give him a little better look at what he should be discarding. Okay.
Looks like he's playing Gurmag Angler or Tasker or something.
He's counting out cards in his graveyard, so he might be delving for something here.
Yeah, it looks like he's playing Gurmag Angler.
Yeah, that's a pretty good threat against the Pox deck. It's not something that's easily removed. Alright, and he's going to attack with the Delver, probably killing off the Liliana. I think that the Liliana probably should have went after the Delver secrets earlier in the game, because now, he lost a very important resource.
Yeah, I believe probably sealed the game, to be honest.
There's still a lot of things out of the Pox deck. Smallpox could be very good here, especially he's able to pair it up with something else to kill the Delver. I wouldn't say he's out of the Delver player's out of the woods yet, but it's definitely not good to lose one of his best finishers in the matchup.
And he discards the other one, so.
Looks like he's playing something here. We got another, got a Tombstalker, essentially going to do a very good job of stonewalling Eric's board. The Grixis deck doesn't really have any way to get this off the table in game one, unless it's pairing multiple removal spells together, like double bolts, or maybe trading his own Gurmag Angler for it. Which it looks like Ryan's at a pretty high life total, so honestly he might even be able to just race what Eric's doing right here. So, well, it looks like
PZ's coming out right now.
Eric's just trying to go wide or against Ryan over here. He's got a Protaxian Probe 2 combo with super well with the Pyromancer, able to cast a free spell and get a creature out of it. Looks like he's just trying to go wide against this Tombstalker at this point. Though the Tombstalker again does a very good job of stonewalling a lot of his board. Only the Gurmag Angler can make a good attack in this position.
Eric does have Lightning Bolt.
Yeah. With the Lightning Bolt, I'm almost a little surprised you didn't try to attack with the Delver as well, because I understand, 2-for-1ing yourself against a deck like Pox is kind of rough. But I think the Gurmag Angler is worth so much that you'd be much happier to just trade your Delver and a Bolt with the creature than just trade the Gurmag Angler, which again is super hard for the Pox deck to remove.
He has actually 2 bolts in his hand. Very interesting.
Oh wow! So maybe he's just finding. That also seems like a fine backup plan. He can just start throwing the bolts in Ryan's face once he gets low enough, and they also go pair really well with the Pyromancer, allowing him to keep a board state as well as throw damage directly at Ryan instead of answering his threats.
It looks like he just Diabolical Edict Eric. Sack creature.
Not particularly good against Young Pyromancer. Again, Young Pyromancer, I think, being one of the best cards in this kind of matchup, because it's able to make all of his Edict effects so bad, and able to, again, apply pressure to his opponent while also just doing what his deck does and playing a lot of instants and sorceries.
Yeah. Eric's hand looks like Brainstorm, Lightning Bolt, Lightning Bolt.
That is a very good hand to have in this position. Looks like, he's going to Brainstorm.
Lightning Bolts. That looks like True Name Nemesis and Daze.
Well, I hope you remember to trigger his Young Pyromancer, because it looks like he's resolving the Brainstorm, but I didn't see him point to his Pyromancer or put a token into play, so we're hoping he remembers his trigger.
He's just going to do it the good old-fashioned way and afterwards.
Well, it's very nice of his opponent, Ryan, to allow him to do that. Looks like he just forgot it.
He just is not triggering young PZ, so...
Yeah, it happens. It's there's a lot of things going on in these kind of games. There's a lot of different elements. You can always remember all your triggers. So you remember this one, it looks like. Yeah, he's not missing that trigger. You can't. You gotta get your value at some point. All right. Well, again, it's like Ryan's running pretty low on resources at this point. He's gonna need something really good to catch up. Inquisition of Kozilek is gonna show him a hand of things he doesn't want to see.
Lots of Lightning Bolts, Dazes, and a Deathrite Shaman.
It's just a lot of resources for his opponent to have. He has to take Deathrite Shaman there. I 100% agree with that. Deathrite Shaman is one of the worst cards for the Pox deck, as it lets him have mana as well as way to pressure his life total. And that Pox deck also plays Recursive Elements, which Deathrite Shaman shuts off. Alright, well, honestly, this game's looking really bad for Ryan. He's the control deck in this matchup, and he's just so far behind on resources in this game. I really do think the Liliana might have play earlier in the game might have just kind of sealed the way this game has been going ever since. Eric has drawn very well as the cantrips have led him to a spot where he's able to establish Young Pyromancer, which again is probably his best threat in the matchup.
Moving to attacks, he's swinging.
Yeah, getting in for 6 looks like over here. Gonna really put the pressure on Ryan. I don't know if Ryan has any main deck answer to this kind of board. If there's any kind of sweeper, damnation, toxic deluge in the deck, but without a card like that, I don't think there's a way his deck can come back from this. There's a Wasteland. A little late on that one, sadly. Eric is to the point where he doesn't really need many of his lands anymore. Alright, looks like he's gonna, cast a lightning bolt in response. Try to, use his mana as efficiently as he can because, and also Pyromancer allows him to kind of throw resources at Eric or at Ryan.
I think he was actually lightning bolting Ryan.
Well, I know he was.
Oh yeah. I know.
Well, yeah, this game, I think Ryan realized, he's just dead on board. There's really no way he can come back, so he's gonna pack it in and going for the next game.
Yeah. So going to game 2, we'll see what it's gonna look like. Ryan's sideboard has some good tools actually against the Grixis Delver deck, so we'll see. This matchup isn't particularly favoring Grixis, is it?
I think the Pox deck is actually slightly advantaged in this kind of matchup. I think that Young Pyromancer kind of puts a wrench in things, but I think without Young Pyromancer, the Pox deck is very well set up to fight what Delver is doing. Liliana the Veil and just Edicts and stuff are typically very good against these Delver decks. Again, Young Pyromancer is the one exception to this rule where that card if that card gets on the board and doesn't die, Eric's able to usually just swarm the board and make it so Ryan has to fight very specific cards to try to stay in the game, and it's usually very difficult. I do think Delver is a very solid deck for most matchups. Even your bad matchups aren't that bad, so I think Delver has a shot against mostly anything. So I think it's all going to come down to how they both sideboard, what they have to bring in for this kind of matchup. And again, just the kind of decisions that are made. Like I think Ryan definitely should have probably used the Liliana game 1 to go after the Delver secrets, and at that point he would might have been able to maybe eke out some more advantage in that game and maybe make it a little closer.
Yeah, not edicting the Delver seems suspect.
It was an interesting line. I kind of see what he was going for. He was trying to bleed his opponent out of resources, but Delver is a deck that is very good at keeping a handful of things. Like with all the cantrips and all the instant speed interaction they have, so it's a little difficult to attack the hand. A lot of the time, you'd rather just play to the board, especially when you have a permanent like Liliana the Veil that will be able to potentially lock your opponent out of the game on its own. You'd rather off just trying to protect that threat as much as possible, and force your opponent to have the right answer to get to it. Otherwise, you can again just keep your opponent off from playing anything.
Yeah, I guess he was just going with the please don't flip plan on Delver of Secrets.
Yeah, it's really hard when your opponent plays. There's so many cantrips in Legacy, and this is why Delver Secrets is so powerful, is that people are able to, essentially set up the top of their deck so it's not really random. And, Eric had brainstormed 2 turns earlier, so I think it would be pretty apparent that his Delver would flip there. But again, the game looked pretty hard for Eric to win, Ryan to win regardless, just because the way Eric had a very good draw, he was on the perfect amount. He had 2 lands, which is basically the perfect amount for his deck. Ryan kind of floated out a little bit there. He drew a lot of lands, wasn't able to really utilize his Liliana that well. The Mistress Factory wasn't really able to do very much. So I think, again, that would be a hard game, I think, for Ryan to win regardless. That's the thing when you're not playing Brainstorm and Legacy. Sometimes you just draw 5 lands, and that's your game. That's the thing with Delver. You have Brainstorm and Ponder. You're able to filter out those kind of draws a lot more. Looks like we're going to game 2.
Sideboarding is over.
Yep. If I had to guess, whatever card advantage elements that Eric has in his deck, he probably brought in. The Pox deck typically plays a lot of graveyard recursive engines, so typically bringing in cards like Surgical Extraction and stuff is solid against them. Just any kind of 2-for-1 card, that card that lets you stay on the board, like if he's playing like a Baleful Strix sometimes in the sideboard, cards like that are really solid against Pox. Just anything that keeps you up on cards, because Pox is just trying to grind him out. The Pox player, on the other hand, is just going to bring in whatever other situational removal spells they have for this kind of matchup. If there's any sweepers, they probably come in. Most likely, just more answers usually because they're the control. He's the control deck in this matchup. He just wants to make sure that Eric has no permanence, and that's how he wins.
Nice thing about Pox is that if he brings in like Toxic Deluge or something, he can just go Toxic Deluge for like 1 or 2 and clear entire boards from Eric.
Yeah, typically the life loss isn't that much of a factor because the Delver deck doesn't actually have a ton of burn in it. They play Lightning Bolts and there's Deathrite Shamans, but other than that, there's not too much reach, so you're able to use your life total pretty liberally in a matchup like this. Again, just anything that's able to kill more than one threat in his sideboard will probably come in this kind of matchup. Just because, even paying 5 life to kill a Grimag Angler is a lot better than taking a hit from it. And he can, a lot of the time, the Delver player is going to be really strained on resources, so they're not going to be able to counter everything sometimes. So if you can get in the sweeper at the right time, it can be very powerful.
Yeah, we got going to 6 from Eric. It looks like he's going to keep using his Scry.
Mulligans never feel good against this kind of deck, but so you gotta do what you gotta do. You gotta have a hand that functions.
Looks like Eric put on bottom.
Yep. Well, luckily he's on the draw this matchup, which is actually not too bad, especially when you're on a mulligan.
Opening with Swamp from Ryan.
No turn 1 discard, and I think that was another thing with the first game that became really problematic for Ryan is that he didn't know interaction on turn 1, and this is a matchup where every turn is so important.
Fetching from Eric. Probably going to get a Volcanic Island here.
Depending on what his hand is, he might go.
Oh, you want an Underground Sea?
Yeah, I was like, if he has depending on if he kept.
He might have a Volcanic. I think he actually has a Volcanic Island in his hand.
Well, yeah, and depending on what cards he brought in, he may with the black source. Like I know a lot of the Delver lists sometimes play cards like Painful Truce, and if that's the case, he wants to make sure having the black mana could be important.
Delver coming out on turn 1.
That's an ideal start for him. He wants to get a clock into play against his Pox deck. He doesn't want to just sit here on his toes. He's hoping Smallpox doesn't come down, but if it does, hopefully he has a daze. And it looks like it is a Smallpox, and it is going to get everything, it looks like.
Oh, gosh.
Well, luckily, again, this is kind of to be expected. This is kind of the strength of playing the Pox deck, especially on the play, where he's able to attack his opponent's resources and whittle him down very low. Again, depending on what Eric has in his hand, this is not the end of the world. He'll hopefully be able to rebuild. Again, this is it's another matchup where you just kind of want to have more lands in your hand. So Eric, knowing that, probably just kept a hand with more lands in it. That way he could continue to play the game.
Like
another Delver? Or is that a Ponder?
That was a Ponder.
A Ponder. Well, I'm sure Ryan's very happy about this being a Ponder because, again, Ryan being the control deck in this matchup, it's all about just keeping the board clear and trying to stick one of his game-winning threats.
He is shuffling.
So, again, the cantrip, usually, cantrip's not the best for Ryan, but it's a lot better than him playing another threat in this spot. Well, yeah, shuffling off the Ponder is always a good sign. It's never fun to see your opponent keep off Ponder. It's like, oh, well. Alright, take a draw.
Looks to be a Taxium Probe.
Uh-huh.
Wasteland. Those are 2 more. What are those cards on the left? The leftmost.
I see. There's like some Mishra's Factories. Looks like he has a lot of lands in his hand. I think I saw 2 Mishra's Factories or Wasteland. It looks like his hand is very land heavy, which, depending. If Eric has no threats, it's fine in this kind of matchup. He's able to just, develop his board. Looks like he's got a sinkhole for Eric's other land. That's pretty powerful. Eric looks like he has at least another Volcanic Island, so we're still going to be playing here. Again, he's doing a very good job of keeping a card like Young Pyromancer off the table, which is very important because that's a very problematic card for the Pox deck. And it looks like he's not going to be able to stop him from having this land here. Well, I guess that's a Rashad import. Forgive me, I didn't realize. I thought that was something else. Yeah, he has a Rashad import, which is interesting. A lot of these Pox decks, I don't think usually play that card. It's a little bit of an interesting tech. I guess if you want to be... sometimes people fetch basics, and that's annoying, so you got to be able to stop them somehow. It's like a Hymn to Turok. That is a really powerful card in this kind of spot. His opponent's stuck on one land. He probably at this point, every resource really matters, so this hymn's probably going to be good no matter what it hits at this point. We're randomizing it here. Going to get
True Name Nemesis.
True Name, which is fine. I think True Name's actually kind of really awkward in this kind of matchup. I'm actually really surprised to even see the True Name still in his deck.
And he got Young Pyromancer as well.
Again, I feel like the True Name Nemesis of this matchup feels really hard.
Yeah.
It's a card that dies to almost all of Ryan's removal, and it requires 3 mana to be in play. To be honest, I'm very surprised to even see it post board. I feel like that would be a card that he would move away from.
Yeah.
Looks like
Eric grabbed the Rashad port so he can actually have mana.
Eric wastelanded Ryan, which is interesting. With Ryan having so many lands, I feel like you might have just been better off holding the wasteland as something to maybe sack to a Smallpox down the line. It's like getting and also and again also with this Mistress Factory in play, it's like I understand the Rashad import was causing him problems, but I feel like just having a pure critical mass of lands is really important in this matchup. And Ryan's clearly flooding, so I think that wastelanding him may have been a misplay by Eric in this game.
Drawing another land.
Yeah, let's say Ryan's fine at this point. He has two Mistress Factories. He's going in, getting in for 4. Just this is the kind of game that Pox supposed to play. He just bleeds out his opponent, gets him so low on resources, and is able to just bully in with the resource advantage. Like
Eric just drew another land.
Well, that's good for that's really good. He needs every land he can get in this spot.
He can play Young Pyromancer now.
Hopefully, and that's another. Hopefully, he has another free spell to play with it. Because my sneaking feeling is that this Young Pyromancer probably will not survive past his next untap step. So. I believe that I'm hoping Eric has something other instant speed interaction and he can play for free in the spot. Otherwise, this Young Pyromancer is going to be really hard to be able to push through any kind of advantage.
Grabbed another Underground Sea.
Yeah, at this point, the Delver decks don't play that many lands, so he's got to be careful about trying to run out on certain colors. He looks like he's going to leave with a Deathrite Shaman, which I actually like this play a lot. I think that if he kills the Deathrite Shaman, that's unfortunate. But the Young Pyromancer is such a prize.
He just drew Liliana.
That you want to protect it? Well, that is unfortunate. Hopefully Eric has some kind of interaction for this. Otherwise, this might just be the game right here. Well, Eric's trying. I think he's gonna brainstorm. Oh no, it's Spell Pierce. That's he has 2 mana though. That's not great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the cost of playing cards like Spell Pierce in your deck. Honestly, I think I have Eric there. I don't even think I'd Spell Pierce. I just don't think it's worth it. Your opponent's so likely to pay for it. And again, this is a resource-heavy matchup.
He just drew Force of Will. That's sadness right there.
That's the cost of playing counter Magic. Sometimes it's not always there for you.
He might have wanted to get enough for Gurmag Alien to cost 1.
Well, I think he's asked way more than enough. There's been a lot of things going to the graveyard this game.
Yeah, that's true.
I think the Spell Pierce would. I mean, I understand that Ryan has to assign a land in play, but I think the Spell Pierce still has more use down the line, or just is something to discard to a Liliana or a Smallpox later on. And again, this matchup's so resource heavy that just throwing resources at mana is not a very good way to, I think, to win the matchup. Well, this Liliana looks like it's going to get to work. And honestly, this Gurmag Angler, I mean, it's really big and strong, but if he has a way to answer it or a way to invalidate it.
What card is that? Is that another box?
It looks like an Inquisition of Kozilek. No, it's a Disparate. Oh, it was an Edict. It looked like.
Oh,
actually.
yeah.
Yeah, that'll deal with the Gurmag Angler and.
Looks like Ryan has full control over this game right now.
Yeah, I think this is looking like Liliana and the factories are going to get there. This is the Pox game plan. Just run your opponent out of resources. And again, this is that I think the playing of the Spell Pierce as well as a couple other decisions to make in this game I think have caused Eric a potential chance to win. Again, this is a very resource-heavy matchup. Every resource counts, and I think you can't afford to be wasteful with any of your resources. Looks like he's going to play Young Pyromancer. This is probably the Hail Mary. I think he's just going to pack it in. He realizes that Liliana's factories just happened to get his dead on board.
Well, and that's kind of just how, when Liliana gets rolling, that's kind of just how the cookie crumbles, unfortunately, for Eric.
Yeah.
But it was nice to see Ryan rebound from, a pretty poor game 1. So he made the right play this time with Liliana the Veil.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Sometimes you got to learn the hard way, too. There's a lot of complicated interactions in these decks. There's a lot going on. I think that, again, Liliana the Veil is not as straightforward of a card as sometimes it would appear to be. And again, even with some of the other cards in these decks, like I like Eric leading off with the Deathrite Shaman that previous turns of the Pyromancer, because again, the Pyromancer is such a prize that you want to make sure you get some value out of it when it comes into play, and not letting it get 1-for-1. And again, if he was able to set up a board where he was able to get tokens with the Pyromancer, the edicts become so much worse. And maybe Eric's able to squeeze out that game. But, again, I think both these players, a little bit of the experience in this kind of matchup from each player's side. I think there's there's a lot of play to these decks, and there's a lot of small lines. So, and it's easy, it's easy sometimes for us to, seeing everything on the table, seeing how people should play the match. But, again, it is something that, a lot of the times, there's just a lot of, it's hard sometimes when you're playing in a game to tell where you should be at all times.
Yeah. And yeah, this Pox deck can't be very easy to play against and understand how, exactly how it's going to attack you.
It's very taxing on everything. Like you want to have lands, but you also want to have spells. And if you get to the point where you have too much of one or the other, it can be very problematic to win the game. I'm assuming Eric's going to play this match.
Yes, and I saw Force of Will in his hand, Lightning Bolt. I believe a Daze.
Well, I mean, those cards are fine, but he needs to have pressure. If he doesn't have any pressure against the Pox deck, I almost don't think he can keep a hand like this. Just because playing Draw Go against Pox is just such a problematic proposition. Looks like he's keeping, though. You have a fetch land over here. Maybe he has a cantrip to try to smooth out the hand. Or if he has a Delver Secrets, that'd be ideal. Especially since it's turn 1, his opponent won't be able to Smallpox him and completely destroy his board.
I believe he's grabbing Volcanic Island here.
Yeah, it makes sense. He has a Lightning Bolt in his hand. He's probably going to want to cast at some point down the line.
He's drawing with
he's
taxing
probing,
probe.
yeah. I'm fine with paying life in this kind of matchup for the probe. If he, depending on if he has Young Pyromancer in his hand, sometimes you want to save the probes. But I think in this, again, this is not a matchup where life total is really that much of a resource. I think it's fine to just spend your life total to be as efficient as possible to try to get ahead. As again, I would say that Eric is definitely the aggressive deck in this matchup.
He's looking at the Phyrexian Totem.
The Phyrexian Totem. Oh yeah, that's a good old spicy one from the Time Spiral block. 3 mana is a lot, but I guess if he feels like he's gonna get there, that's fine.
It's a 3 mana swamp.
Gotta be careful about that lightning bolt though. If he ever animates it, that could be a problem. Brainstorm. Okay, he's brainstorming main phase. Looks like he's trying to find maybe some kind of particular interaction. I don't know. Again, it feels kind of odd to be doing it this early, doing it in response to nothing. But
looks like Eric basically just has a bunch of counter magic and lightning bolts in his hand.
Yeah, maybe he's just trying to figure out. I don't know. I was a little surprised he didn't do it on Ryan's turn, but I guess maybe he just figures he's going to do it anyway. He might as well just fire it off. Alright, looks like Ryan. I didn't get the best look at Ryan's hand. It looked like he had an Urborg, which is again one of the best lands he has in the matchup. It makes all of his plays so much more potent. Let's see, hopefully he has a turn 1 play this turn because that's the one way he's been struggling in this matchup. He's just been passing on turn 1. And against Delver, every turn is so important.
It looks like he does have something.
Yeah, it's looks like a Dark Ritual. Yeah, he's
Eric is gonna say no. I think
he's going to daze it. I'm a little surprised. I mean, I guess Liliana the Veil, but he could daze the Liliana the Veil. So I'm a little, or whatever he plays there probably could get dazed. So I'm a little surprised that Eric even fought over the Ritual there. I figured he'd be okay, just trying to maybe 2-for-1 his box opponent because. As I mentioned before, I think this matchup's all about the resources.
I mean, Eric does have 2 Force of Wills in hand, so I don't know. Maybe.
Well, Force of Will is kind of problematic in this kind of matchup as well. It's not something you necessarily want to do because the problem is a lot of the time, your box opponent is just trying to trade resources with you, and Force of Will is letting them do that. It's just letting you choose the resources you're trading. And again, without a pressure in play, the Force of Wills end up catching up to Eric, and he'll eventually run out of resources versus Ryan will be able to continue to have things. Hopefully he's able to find a threat. Let's take another brainstorm. He's
Trade name Nemesis right there, but he doesn't have enough mana to play it in a wasteland.
Again, I'm very skeptical of the True Name Nemesis in this matchup. I feel like Eric is a little unfamiliar with how this matchup is played because it just feels like True Name Nemesis just feels like it's a card that's just so hard to get to in this kind of matchup. And it's also answered so easily by Ryan's deck that I don't know if I'd want to be having that card anywhere near my deck.
Liliana the Veil is the draw from Ryan. I believe he also has a Thought Seize.
It looks like Eric did miss his land drop, so
Hymn to Turok is coming out.
Hymn to Turok is very good against the opponent who is stuck on lands because, again, all the resources in his hand are probably good. Eric might just Force of Will this, but it looks like he's might just going to let it happen. I think I'm okay with not Force of Willing it, especially if you don't care too much about the cards in your hand, because you're fine with him. If he just takes the Force of Will, it's basically the same thing anyway.
You got a Volcanic Island.
Oh, that's probably not good.
And Brainstorm.
Oh man, those are some good hits, I believe, off of that.
He's got lightning. He's got Lightning Bolt, True Name Nemesis, and something else left.
Oh man, he's probably been. I'm pretty sure Eric would have been fine with him taking that lightning bolt, but this is ugly. Looking like he took his land. Does he have another one? Hopefully, if not, this
He has a wasteland.
Well, I mean, again, this is a weird spot because he wants the mana, but at the same time, Liliana the Veil could be looming in Ryan's hand, which I believe it is.
It is.
And if that's the case, he may just want to keep Ryan from his third mana, which is a little hard to do because I believe the Pox deck just plays more lands than Delver. So, should be interesting to see what Eric decides to do with this Wasteland. I'm not 100% sure what he should do. Yeah, it looks like he's going to keep it for mana this time, which could be, I think probably is the right call, despite the fact that this Liliana might come down and just, take over the game here. I think he's going to go for it, though. And it's a Liliana. Let's see if he has a response.
Does he have the Force of Will?
Force of Will, he's pitching True Nemesis. Yeah, I think
yeah.
that's probably the right line. The True Name's not doing much in the face of Liliana to begin with, so I think you're fine making that trade. As bad as it feels. Again, this is why the Pox deck is so good in this kind of matchup. It's just so able to grind down the Delver opponent. The Delver operates in such few resources and such few ways to draw cards that the Pox opponent could just keep offering these 2-for-1 trades, and eventually the Delver player will run out of resources, and the Pox opponent will be able to take over. I mean, yeah, this is Eric's had no pressure in play the whole game. Ryan's just able to sit here and to play his land drops, develop his board. His luxury is definitely not where he wants to be. That's
the totem.
The totem's in play.
The clock is here.
Yeah, I mean, it's arguably a little risky to play. Oh, it's a Wasteland too. Oh no. At least, okay, it looks like he's going to be able to at least kind of play. Take another Volcanic. Looks like
those other two lands I think are Wastelands.
They're both Wastelands?
I'm pretty sure.
Oh, yeah, I think you're right.
You can tell from the glaring sun.
Yeah, I think they are. That's real bad for Eric. These colorless sources aren't going to do a lot for him here. Oh, this is looking real bad. So
here comes the 5/5.
Yeah, they're both if they're both Wastelands, it's probably fine to come in with this totem. Well, guys, we're gonna get back. We're getting some Time Spiral Limited flashbacks over here.
It's like Chalice of the Void for one's coming out.
I mean, that's very good against the Delver deck. This game's looking really hard for Eric at this point. It looks like he's not serving in with the totem, which is, I mean, understandable. He has such a accommodating presence. I guess he's probably just playing it safe here. Maybe activating it next turn because he wanted to get the Chalice in play.
Yeah. That
seems fine. The Chalice of the Wood on 1 against Delver is very powerful. It locks out a lot of his plays.
Looks like Grimag Angler was the draw for Ryan.
Grimag Angler is probably going to seal the deal here. That is just a really hard card for the Delver deck to deal with, especially in a board state like this where it just has no pressure and no equivalent card in play. Yeah, unless Eric can counter this, I don't really see how he's going to be able to win the game.
So Lightning Bolts and 2 other cards in Eric's hand.
Is that an Angel as a
Ponder?
Ponder?
It looks like.
Yeah, this is the power of the Pox deck. When your opponent's operating in such few resources, but also just not drawing a lot of cards themselves, they're able to create these board states where the opponent just has stuff in their hand, and the Pox deck's able to destroy all of Eric's few mana sources, and now this is the game, and now he's getting attacked for 10. It's a 2-turn clock.
Eric will go down to 7.
Yeah, I don't really see a way Eric gets out of this.
Yeah, it needs a miracle here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe he drew it. I believe Eric's just gonna scoop it up right here.
Looks like he's gonna play it out. He's gonna show his opponent. Yeah, he had a whole bunch of spells he couldn't play. And looks like that is the match.
Looks like Ryan takes it 2-1.
Mm-hmm. Again, I think a lot of this matchup, I think there's a little bit of misunderstanding between the two players and not necessarily what is important in the matchup. Though, again, I think the Pox deck just overall has a general advantage against the Delver deck.
Yeah.
And it clearly showed in those last 2 games. Well, thanks for watching, guys.